Hello and welcome to another episode of the Happy Head podcast. As you know by see, that's how it goes sometimes. You even trip up on your words. My name is Paul and I am your host. Sometimes I have to speak like that in order to get my words out. But never mind. Today I'm with the incredible Hannah Galliers, a mindfulness coach. Hi, Hannah. What brings you to the show today?
Hi, Paul. Thank you so much for having me on the show. And thank you, everyone, for listening. As Paul said, I'm Hannah Galliers, the mindfulness coach. What's brought me here today is that I have a passion for helping people. And I thought the Happy Head podcast is going to be one of the best places I can do that, because I can talk about my story that brought me here today, helping people be happy.
So what is your story then, Hannah? How did you get into becoming a mindfulness coach? What brought you to where you are today?
So it's kind of a very long story, actually. I went through a lot of my own struggles, which I'm going to talk about. So just for a trigger warning, I will be talking about sexual assault and mental health problems, and perhaps talk about suicide. So I just want to make the viewers aware that those topics may come up. And can continue listening. It is a happy ending. I'm here. So, kind of what got me into it was, as I mentioned, my own struggles. At the age of 19, I was kidnapped by two men and sexually assaulted. I managed to escape. No one was ever caught until last year through DNA. He got arrested for drink driving. I was arrested for the same thing at the same time. So that kind of left a period of about 10 years where I felt this, I didn't have this closure for what happened to me. And I was very angry at the world. It was unfair what happened to me. And obviously, in itself, it's a horrific, traumatic thing to have to go through, especially at such a young age. Obviously, this sent me down a very dark path for a long time. I was using very unhealthy coping mechanisms, and I did that for about 5 years. Around 2015, it all came to a head. One of my friends, unfortunately, passed away, and I realised how suicidal I was at that point and how delicate my wanting to be alive was holding in the balance. I then decided to reach out for some help because I was either going to be dead soon or I could be brave and try and change. And I think that's the bravest thing you can do in that situation, is accepting that something is wrong and being brave enough to put yourself out there to make the change.
It is a really, really tough thing to do, because I've been there. 3 times in my life I've tried to kill myself, and the last time back in 93 I almost succeeded. And the thing for people that have never been there is that outwardly you might not know the person is feeling the way they are. They might be all happy as Larry and oh, what a beautiful day kind of thing on the outside, but on the inside it's just like a maelstrom, a storm, a tornado, or completely opposite, just blackness. There's a meme going around that used to go around of a guy sitting down, smiling, but inside they show the inside of his head. It's like a little boy crying, holding a teddy bear kind of thing. And that is a really, really good kind of metaphor for what a lot of people are feeling. And reaching out when you need to reach out is the toughest thing you can do. And so I completely agree with you, Hannah, when you say it's a demonstration of how brave you are to kind of put yourself out there and go, I need some help.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Sometimes it's the happiest people that have the struggles. A lot of people, I guess, didn't realize how bad it was for me. So it was definitely tough. And then I obviously went to the doctors. I was given antidepressants, which, in my opinion, they are a short-term fix to allow you to get the therapy and get you the help you need, which sometimes isn't always available, but I'll come back onto that. So I was on the waiting list for some CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy, and I was asked to wait 9 months. Now, when you don't want to get up anymore and you don't see the point in being alive every day, 9 months is such a long time. Um, and, it was scary. And I didn't know what to do. It felt really helpless and I felt lost. My best friend at the time wanted to go to a meditation class. And I really wasn't into that kind of hippie stuff at the time. I thought it was a load of hocus pocus, and I just imagined me sitting there with my legs crossed going, So she managed to convince me to come along. And you know what? Even with my skeptical mind, I went there with an open mind and said, I'll give it a try. I was always someone that couldn't sit still and had to be doing something. So for me, the idea of meditation sounded very alien. And for the first time in my life, I felt I could create the space to allow myself to work through some of the issues I had. I was able to help calm my mind from this chaos that I was constantly feeling. And that was such a life-changing moment for me. I still remember it's picture clear in my mind that day and that moment. And yeah, that was kind of the start for me. I went to these classes and continued. I then started going on retreats. And then I decided I wanted to help people in the same way.
So are you saying that that very first session you kind of got clarity on your mind was kind of clear and stuff disappeared for you?
I definitely had, I would like to say, an epiphany. It doesn't always work for everyone that way. It just depends. Yeah, for me, it was such a life-changing moment because for so long I'd been carrying around so much, the weight of expectation, the weight of grief, and all this trauma that I packaged and was holding over me, that finally it felt like I could just put it down, even for those few minutes. You know, learning and training the mind to not have this constant mind chat is challenging. But for me, I wasn't able to do it for the whole meditation, but for those few minutes where I was, it almost felt like a lifetime because of how long I'd been carrying it for.
I don't know how to say this, but from the mindfulness perspective, you are so lucky because there's so many of us that go through a long period of time. I mean, for me, it was probably several months before I even had like a minute of silence up here because there's a constant chatter going on and there's a bit like, okay, I'm not thinking now. Well, I must be thinking. So if I'm thinking I'm not thinking, I must be thinking. So those kind of like things going on in my mind. The one thing I read quite recently actually was that a lot of people think that when they're meditating, because they're thinking that it's not working, but the actual fact that once you start meditating, you are actually meditating and going through that sort of mental decluttering and the mental chattering is just simply part of the process. And over a period of time, the chattering gets quieter and quieter and quieter, and eventually it's just so quiet you can't hear it. And then there are more stages further on that. So yeah, I mean, it must have been brilliant to have, like you say, an epiphany right on that very first day.
Yeah, I mean, it's phenomenal, and I definitely agree that some people think because they're thinking it's not working, but mindfulness and meditation is all about this, I guess, this process of inquiry. So rather than being sitting there thinking and getting cross about the fact that you have thoughts coming in, it's about allowing yourself to be accepting of them.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the harder you push something away, the stronger it comes back. So often we find that the thoughts that we're having run around a particular theme. And so through this process of inquiry, we can look at these thoughts and unpick them and understand them. Quite often, if we're dealing with a level of low mood or anxiety, it's the thoughts that are driving that. we have, I read it the other day, I think it's 10,000 thoughts a day.
Oh,
A
I'm the
lot of
rest.
them,
It's about
yeah,
between 60 and 70,000 thoughts every single day.
wow,
It's a
wow.
huge amount. It's a phenomenal amount. And thankfully, we'd probably go insane if we kind of like, oh, I'm having another thought. Oh, I'm having another thought. Oh, I'm having another thought.
Mm.
So the brain kind of filters out a lot of the stuff. So we don't actually recognize that we have 70,000 thoughts a day, but it is a humongously unexpected number, massive.
And so, it's these, a lot of them are repetitive and they're kind of the same thing. And so if you're able to shine a light on what some of these are, especially if they're on perhaps a more negative energy, then you can start to kind of raise them up a little bit. And this is what we talk about when we talk about positive mindset. It's shining a light on these negative, repetitive thoughts. And that's kind of the idea behind CBT, I guess. It's implanting these positive thoughts and these new thought patterns and ideas for our brains to pick up on them and repeat them instead.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I had a bit of CBT a while back, and the way I saw it, it was kind of accepting, it was about acceptance, accepting that the situation we're in is X, but that there is something you can do about it. And then
Mm.
so with CPT, they give you lots of kind of, I'm not going to call them hacks. I really don't like that phrase, but they give you sort of tools that you can work with to help you recognize that there is a way out and to help you recognize that all that kind of negative chatter isn't necessarily true. And to actually get you to change your view of what's going on inside. And I think
Mm.
CBT is a brilliant tool. But the thing is, like you say, it's such a shame that on the NHS, for those outside of the UK, the NHS is a national health service, which we is acceptable. No, not acceptable. It's free to everybody in the UK. But because of that, there's a huge waiting list for everything apart from what is really, really urgent. And you said you had to wait like 9 months to get yours?
Yeah. Yeah, I had to wait 9 months to see a CBT therapist. The NHS is wonderful if you've got a broken leg and you need to go to A&E, you'll get it fixed and that will be done really quickly. But especially the mental health services, there's so much strain on them that unfortunately people are left waiting for a long time. Um, and this is one of the reasons I chose to become a mindfulness coach, and help coach people around that. So I get to do my passion really, helping people and helping show them that there is a better way. Mindfulness really focuses on the similar principles to CBT, such as acceptance. So you've got these 7 attitudes of mindfulness, and that's kind of the 7 things that we focus on when we think about a mindful mindset. So when we're looking at things like from um, a beginner's mind, seeing things for the first time, and adding to that, it's then creating little pockets of joy in your day. When you look at things with a beginner's mind, you might not notice that the seasons are changing normally. But if you look at the same tree every day, you will notice it's ever so slightly different. And just like every day might feel the same to you, but it is different. And that's one of the joys of mindfulness and focusing on the moment, that no 2 moments are exactly the same. Each of them has its own joy to be found.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges that we face is that our society today is so full on and so fast paced and so instant this and I want it now that
Mm.
people don't give themselves to chance the opportunity to enjoy exactly what they're doing right now. Even if it's something pleasurable, or people are often thinking about what they have to do next, like food, mealtime. If you think about it, that people have a lot of problems with digestion and weight issues and all kinds of things. And one of the biggest issues I've read is that we don't pay attention to the fact that we're eating our meal. And
Mm.
so the body doesn't get a chance to understand, okay, I'm having dinner now, I've got to digest it. We don't chew. A lot of our food is very, very soft. So you don't need, 1, 2 swallow kind of thing. And so we don't pay attention to the flavors and the taste and the smells and the texture of the food that we're eating. And so we don't appreciate it, and we're missing out so much. Even people that go to like a really, well, not now obviously, but when we were able to go out to posh restaurants and you spend a lot of money going out for a meal, if you watch people, they wouldn't be appreciating the food. Oh, it looks nice, and then it's gone. And then that's one of the issues with life, like you mentioned earlier. Going past the same tree on your way to the station every day, that tree is changing very subtly every single day. But most people, it's like, oh, there's no leaves on it. Oh, there's leaves on it. Oh, there's no leaves on it. Must be winter. And they maybe notice that tree 4 times because of the 4 major changes that tree's gone through. But they don't notice the subtleties. I mean, I love springtime as an example. Walking through town in springtime, and you see the bare leaves with no, so the bare branches with no buds, and then the next day you might see some little tiny buds starting to poke out, and then over time those buds get bigger and bigger and fatter, and then suddenly the next day, woof, they're starting to open up, and it's I love, that's why I love cherry blossom trees. They're great.
I've got one in my front garden, and it's the buds are just starting to come up now, and I'm really excited for that 2 weeks where it's blossomed.
Yeah, it's short-lived but gorgeous. So let's go back a second. You'd been to this first class, this meditation class, and you had this epiphany and started going to more classes. How long before you kind of thought, I can do something with this, and maybe I want to make it my career? What was the kind of process that took you from that very first lesson to where you are today?
So 2018 was when I began my training and started coaching people. I'd been working in a management position, so I'd been used to coaching people and helping people in a different kind of way and through a leadership way. And that's something I'm also really passionate about. So through the coaching and through mindfulness, um, this was kind of a unique blend. So I studied coaching and I studied mindfulness, and I put the two together because for me, I believe in a 360 approach. So you'll never feel successful in life unless you're happy with all areas of your life. So, for example, you could have a fantastic career where you're high flying and you might think that's wonderful, but perhaps your home life is more neglected and you find that difficult. Well, with that contrast, you won't feel successful. And that's what we're all driven by, especially what you were saying in today's society is we're so driven by these by quick fixes and gratification. And one of the ways we get gratification is through feeling successful, and we'll keep searching that until we find it. And we're kind of wired to never see an end to that, especially with our phones and things. It's such a quick way to get instant gratification that mindfulness pulls us away from that slightly.
Yeah, I agree. I think mindfulness takes us back to almost like sort of pre-agricultural days when we did have the time to, well, you didn't have a choice. You'd go out hunting and you'd go out foraging, you would find an animal, you'd come back, you'd gorge, and then you'd know that for maybe 2 or 3 weeks there'd be no more animals around. So you just sit around and you'd tell stories, you'd look at the scars and you'd watch the fire. You would it was almost inbuilt that you would sit and be mindful. But as society has progressed, we've kind of separated from the simplicity of our lives as they were, and we just added on sort of more and more layers of complexity. And so now people are thinking, well, I've had that, what's next? I've had that, what's next? I've seen that, what's next? And it's always what's next, what's next, what's next. And it's such a shame because, as you mentioned, we are missing out on so much that's going on around us. Even the simplest little things. Children, we have kids, and I've had 3 boys, and it seems like yesterday that I was, seeing them being born, picking up my son out of the pool because he was born swimming, to the fact they're now off at university. And there's a difference of 20 years, but that 20 years has collapsed into nothing. And so you really have to cherish every single moment that you're with your loved ones, you're with your kids, and just watch them because they change from day to day. And sometimes it's subtle, and other times like, oh my God, wow, it's first day at school kind of thing. But it's the in-between times that are fascinating. I think that's why mindfulness and meditation should play such an important role in everyone's lives. It just slows you down and brings you back. And with all of the mental health issues that we're facing right now, I think mindfulness and meditation would help people gain more control over what's going on up here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, so I'm happy to share, I've been officially diagnosed with emotionally unstable personality disorder. So that was quite, it's quite a battle. Even these days, I would be lying if I said I found every day perfect and I was perfectly zen every day. But having the tools and the mindset I do means I'm more resilient. I'm able to bounce back quicker. I would be, as I said, I'd be lying if I said, I didn't have bad days, because all of us are human. All of us will have bad days. All of us will have some kind of baggage.
But mindfulness allows for that space to come back. That's that drive to come back fresh. I'm finding, as I said, a little bit more resilience.
I think I completely agree. Everybody has bad days. Even monks that spend their entire lives meditating will stub their toe. Yeah, but I think the difference is a monk will go, ouch, that hurt, and then get on with the rest of their day. Whereas a lot of us will go, oh my God, that's the 15th time I've stubbed my day today. That toe's going to be really hurtful. I won't be able to get my shoes on. I've got that big meeting. I'm going to go to the meeting and I'll be sitting about this toe that'll be really hurting. Then I have to go to the doctor because I've got ingrown toenail, and on 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 and on. Whereas the monk goes, yeah, stubbed my toe, on with the day. And that's the difference. That resilience, that ability to go, yes, that hurt, but let me get on with my day.
Yeah, we part of mindfulness is looking at your thoughts. So some of the examples you gave there are automatic negative thoughts, ants, and so looking at those kind of ants that come up is really interesting to notice those negative thought cycles, because we can get lost down them. It's perfectly natural that our brain will do that, because our brains are designed to protect us.
So, but obviously the predators, I guess, have changed and the stresses have changed. We go into fight or flight on these stresses that are around us constantly. It's no longer, a woolly mammoth or a wolf or anything like that. It's more psychological stress, and we haven't quite adapted to that. And that's what can cause these negative thought cycles. Our brain just trying to protect us.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the biggest challenge we face. Society has advanced a million times faster than our brains have. Our brains, like you said, they're still looking for the saber-toothed tiger behind the bush and the big nasty snake behind that other tree. And for most of us, we don't have to face those kinds of predators anymore. But the brain still kind of translates going up onto stage and doing public speaking, or going to have that difficult meeting with your boss, as a saber-toothed tiger moment. And so you get the fight, flight, or freeze response. And if you kind of, as you said earlier, if you hold on to that baggage, it just drags you down and gives you just another thing for your mind to worry about and think about and stress on. Whereas going back to the monk analogy, that ability to react to something like the stubbed toe, but then to go, okay, on with the day. And that's what mindfulness brings you, in my view. It gives you that ability to get on with your day. It doesn't magically wash away stuff that happens, but it gives you the ability, it gives you the tools to deal with that scenario in a completely different way, and not to hold on to it, but to let go of it as soon as you possibly can.
Yeah, I mean, so absolutely, as we mentioned earlier, acceptance and letting go. That's kind of two of the biggest attitudes to take from mindfulness. We can't always control everything that happens to us or happens around us, but we can control our reactions, and mindfulness allows for that space.
When I talk to clients about mindfulness, one of the examples I use are the drivers of the bullet train in Japan, because it's an absolutely fabulous use of kind of mindfulness in practice. The bullet train drivers, they're trained to drive consciously rather than automatically. How many times have people got into a car and driven 100 miles and gone, oh, how'd I get here? Because they've been driving in kind of automatic, which is quite a dangerous thing, because it means your brain has to switch on, and only that fraction of a second could be just too late with an accident approaching. But the bullet train drivers are trained to say, right, okay, instead of just looking out the right-hand window, they go, I'm now looking out of the right-hand window, and they point to the window and then turn, look out the window. I'm now checking my brake speed, my speed, and they'll point to the speed indicator and say it out loud. I am now reading the speed is 180. So every single thing they do to get that train from A to B, they say it out loud, and they point at it, and it means they can't think about anything else. They can't think about the argument they had with their boyfriend or their girlfriend in the morning. They can't think about what they're going to have for dinner. They can't think about they've got that bill to pay. They can't think of anything that would distract them from keeping that train and the passengers safe and get it from A to B safe, because they're trained in such a way that all they're able to do is focus on what they're doing right now. And this is what a lot of us don't do. We could be driving and we'd be thinking about, what's going to happen tonight, or what happened last week, or if that show's going to cancel, and the meeting I've got to go to. I personally believe that so many car accidents and accidents in general could be avoided if people were doing the thing in a more mindful way.
I mean, so the technique you just described there for the Japanese bullet trains is a fantastic kind of example of kind of grounding almost. So one way to really ground yourself and be mindful in a moment is to use the 5 senses. So really look around you. What can you see? What can you hear? What can you smell? What can you taste? And what can you touch? That's a really basic way to get yourself in the moment. For me, you'll find you have a sensory style that you prefer the most, and mine's definitely, I'm a very visual person. So for example, my window over there, I've got this big tree out there, and I've been watching it every day for the past year, watching it change. And that's what really grounds me into a moment, is being able to see things and picking out all the colours and all the patterns. So I urge all the listeners to have a look out your window now and give that a go and see what you've never seen before.
I can't do that with the trees outside my flat, because the council have been around and taken off all of the shoots, because obviously trees in the street have to be controlled, otherwise the roots just spread underneath the buildings and stuff. Well, it's not a problem, because they'll grow back again within a year or so. But all the trees down my street are bare, down to the bare bones, as it were. But I get what you're saying. Observe the trees, which is. But again, I'm a photographer. Photography is a passion of mine, and I've got this beautiful old Victorian brick wall opposite my front windows, particularly in the summertime. Not so much now because the light's quite flat, but in the summertime, the bricks actually change color during the day. They go from like a dull grayish, dull colors, and the sun comes in, and they go much warmer yellows and browns and oranges. And then as the sun changes, as the day gets later and later on, the colors change again, and a cloud comes over. And so, you be mindful of everything that's going on around you. Just take a minute and look at what's going on. One of the exercises that I teach my clients, if they're struggling with anxiety, for example, you talked about grounding. That's a really good kind of emergency protocol if somebody's about to go into a panic attack. But one of the things I get them to do to kind of help them be aware of mindfulness in a very simple way is when they're doing the dishes. I say to people, right, are you got a dishwasher, or do you do it the old-fashioned way? And I say, okay, we'll do it the old-fashioned way. So I get them to say, right, what I want you to do now is do the dishes, but I want you to speak out loud every single step you're taking when you're doing the dishes. Like, I'm turning the tap on, I'm putting the bowl under the tap, I'm grabbing the washing up liquid, and so on and so forth. And that's a really easy way for people to get into understanding what we're talking about, mindfulness. Because when people do the dishes, again, it's they either go into automatic pilot and they don't know what they're doing, and they start thinking about what they've got to do tomorrow. They've got to think about bills, and I've got to do this really quickly because my show's coming on soon. That scattered monkey chimp brain takes control again. Whereas if you actually focus on the task you're doing. It's something really, really simple, just a very easy way to practice.
Yeah, my favorite one. So I know that meditation isn't for everyone. So when I work with clients, I say that mindfulness can even be done whilst drinking a beer. It's all about how you do it. So quite often for me anyway, I know I'm terrible for this one. It's when you finish a cup of tea and you go for another sip and you realize the cup's empty. Well, actually, you've been drinking it again in this automatic pilot. Normally, you're working or doing something else at the same time. So, my first coffee of the day is always done mindfully. It gets me prepared for the day. I've got a 3-month-old baby upstairs, and he sits there with me in bed. So we spend just time together, no phones, just us and my coffee. And then I'm really aware and set up for the day for that mindset. So, it does, yeah. It can be anything. You can do anything mindfully. And that's the joy of it. It's you need to find what works for you, what sets you up for the day, and that's a really great way to start. Some people, before I had a baby, I used to sit and meditate and then have my coffee, but unfortunately that doesn't quite work as well with a little one. But we're still spending that time just setting ourselves up for the day.
And that's one thing that, again, most people or many people don't do. People don't set themselves up for the day. Don't even kind of say to themselves, okay, I'm up and awake now, I'm going to have a great day, and then get on with stuff. It's just like people get up, they wake up, rub their eyes, get out of bed, and then just start doing things. Or probably even more so, it's like, oh God, no, I've got to go to the office today, I've got this to do, and I've got that to do. They're setting themselves up for the day, but in a disadvantageous way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even something simple like getting out of bed and saying, I'm going to have a great day today. Yeah, I know I've got a couple of challenging things to do, but I'm still going to have, over the whole, a great day. That's a simple thing, takes a few seconds. If you've got the time to sit with a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or whatever it is, and just think, yeah, I'm going to, make my cup of coffee now and then just sit here and enjoy this first cup of coffee. That's a brilliant, brilliant thing to do. But most people don't even do that. We've all seen the TV shows and the movies where breakfast doesn't exist. People sort of dash downstairs and there's all this delicious breakfast prepared, but somebody grabs a coffee in a mug and a bit of toast and they're out the door. That's not a great way to start your day. It's saying, look, my day's going to be a rush right from the word go.
Definitely creating that just a little bit of extra time for you in the morning really will make a difference. If you can't spend the time having a nice sit down, relaxing coffee, one of the small things you can do, just as you were saying, I'm going to have a great day, it's gratitude list. So write 3 things that you're grateful for today. You might find it works better in the evening or the morning for you. I always like to think about the things I'm grateful for in the morning. I did start at the first lockdown, a little accountability group where we all used to just post one thing we were grateful for every day in that group. And with the uncertainty, it all kept us going. I think it's made everyone a lot more aware of all the things in their life they are grateful for. The change in pace over the past 12 months is something I've dramatically noticed from a lot of people. And I think it's a blessing. Don't get me wrong, it's been tough the past 12 months. But I think this new way, this new slowing down, spending more time at home, I think that's something that I certainly want to take away, and I think a lot of us will.
I hope so, because I get a different story from a lot of people that I talk to, particularly with people with school-age kids, because they're having to work, do all the normal household things, and become teachers. Homeschool their kids. So it's been a very, very hectic, very, very full-on year for a lot of people. And then there's been the stress of either being furloughed or being out of work or having a business, seeing the business go down the pan. So for an awful lot of people, it's been a very, very challenging year. And put on top of that, the kind of normal daily stresses and strains, I think, sadly, we face, I'm not going to use the word epidemic, that's too dramatic, but mental health wise, I think the NHS is going to be challenged even more than it has been recently once lockdown is over, because a lot of people in a lot of difficult situations mentally, just not being able to sort themselves out. So I think, yeah, it's going to be a challenging time ahead, mentally speaking, for a lot of people.
Yeah, I definitely think that's going to be the case. But I think as with everything, it gives more opportunity. It gives opportunities and
chance to change for the better in a societal way, I think.
Oh yeah, opportunities are always there, absolutely. But again, as we've been talking about, it's whether or not people see those opportunities.
Yeah.
So, Hannah, tell me, what are you up to right now? Have you got anything going?
So I've got my kind of regular group. So I do run a positive mental wellbeing group, which is called Your Daily Dose of Positivity. Anyone's interested in joining. So I run, I have a guest speaker every week where we try and teach you something new, give you some information you haven't had before, or just a little bit of well-being. I run weekly mind meditation classes. I also have my regular one-to-one program, and this year I launched a group program to help reach more people. So that's been going really well. What's been nice is it's had more variety of people by introducing a group method as well, because it's more accessible. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm up to at the moment. It's helping people through the mindfulness. And yeah.
Where's the best place for people to reach out to you if you want to have a chat?
Yeah, so probably Facebook is probably the best place to reach me. So my name's Hannah Galliers, the Mindfulness Coach. Alternatively, you can contact me through my website, which is www.mymindfulnesscoach.co.uk.
Don't worry about noting those down, because I'll put the links in the show notes. Last question, which I kind of ask everybody, Hannah, if you could go back in time and change anything, would you? And if the answer is yes, why?
My answer is no, because everything I've been through has brought me to this moment here today, and I'm grateful for everything I have in my life now.
Brilliant. That's a fabulous thing to end on. So thank you very much for your time, Hannah. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening.
See you later, folks. Take care now. Bye.